Hello, you made it. I made it. We're here. I just paid a little bit of a tribute to my father. I had him in my head when I said hello. That's how he used to say hello. It was such a warm and welcoming hello, and like always made you feel good when he would smile at you and say hello. So hello everybody, welcome to the live stream of consciousness. As you know, I've said it many times before, this is my happy place. It's a place where I get to have some amazing conversations with some amazing people. I'm even more excited tonight because tonight is my first guest who actually heard of the show outside of my circle and contacted me and told me a little bit of her story. She's an author of a book. We're going to talk to her in a little bit, but I think that's pretty significant. I feel really grateful um, that I was contacted and somebody asked me to be on my show. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. I'm just here to do this thing, and thank you guys all for always being here. I didn't turn on my comments. Let's see who's here. Oh, I got Jill here. I got Lily here saying it's happy place time. Awesome. Welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for always being there for me. Um, I also had an amazing experience last night I want to talk about briefly, which was with Linda Newson, who I really should have on the show. Um, and she is a good friend of mine. I think I may have spoken about her before. And it was International Overdose Awareness Day. And she has a group called the Beating Hearts, Beading, and they make beads. And she lost her son to addiction, and she created this group in honor of him, and because he used to make beads for people with inspiring messages. And so that's what this group does. And it was like a way for these bereaving moms to kind of pay tribute to their loved ones, and it was just amazing. Marianne, nice to see you. So I've been friends with her for many years, and on International Overdose Awareness Day, they go out to Smith's Point to the dock, and they write messages on big elephant ear leaves, and they walk to the end of the dock one by one, and they cast off their messages to their angel. And wow, I'm getting emotional. Um, I was telling the story to Annette, and it was interesting. I was originally hired the first year to document the event, and I didn't realize how powerful and healing it would be for me. I mean, I literally, it was like it was its own awakening. The first time, it was like I got to be there with each person or each couple as they cast off their wish or their prayer to their loved one, and spend that moment with their loved one. I mean, they were literally conjuring their loved one up at that moment, and I was there to witness it and feel it, and it was feeling it now. Really powerful stuff. So I just wanted to. Oh, so let me get to the story now. Somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, are you Michael Zinn?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." And I didn't recognize this person. They said, "I've seen your show. I've seen your podcast." And I was like totally blown away. So I have to express a lot of gratitude tonight, before I get to my guest, to all of the people who have been here since the beginning and come religiously to listen to these amazing conversations and contribute. And I can't say enough. I got to be grateful for Linda. Jill, who's one of the viewers, replaced my bracelet. I had lost it. I think I showed this to you guys. She made this for me. And she replaced it, and also gave me something that was also very significant. So she gave me this little intention medallion. I'm sure you can't read it, but maybe you could read it there. It says, just show up. And that message is so important to me, and I think to most people who are listening, and feel it when you understand what that message means. And a lot of times I think I grew up this way. I think a lot of people have a lot of anxiety about showing up, just showing up, like going out, doing stuff, going to events. And that's where the magic happens. You've got to just show up. And if you just show up and bring yourself and your heart and you to whatever it is you're showing up to, I promise you it will be magic. And that's all I want to say. I don't want to babble on forever, but I just felt the need to express something kind of spiritual and that most people can relate to. Thank you, Lorene. Just show up. Totally. So let's get on with the show. Tonight's guest contacted me through a group called the Spiritual Billionaires. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that group. That group is run by Karen Garvey. She has weekend conclaves called the Spiritual Billionaires, where she handpicks uh, people. I think we spoke about it on the episode that she was on, and it's just amazing. And it grew into this bigger community of people who just understand how rich they are by being grateful for the moment, what they have, who they are, where they're at. That's what the Spiritual Billionaires is all about. So, Marianne, I'm sorry, Annette. I'm looking at the chat. Annette contacted me. She's a part of the Spiritual Billionaires group, and she contacted me and said, "Hey, I wrote this book. I've seen your show on the group, and Karen said get in touch with you, and she got in touch with me, and of course her story is amazing and totally relevant to what we talk about here all the time. So it was perfect, and again, I'm so grateful that this has grown into that thing. Oh, don't think I even finished the story. Oh, I did finish the story. Somebody saw the show. Okay, I don't know where my head's at. I'm gonna just get to my guest. I've been saying Annette Marinaccio all week because I had a girl named Marina who I photographed way back, and Marinaccio has Marina in it. The first part of Marinaccio, and that's how I remembered it. I was like Marinaccio. So I want you guys to welcome uh, Annette Marinaccio to the show. What's up, Annette? How you doing?
Hi, how are you, Michael? Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited that you contacted me, and I was super excited about your story because it is totally relevant. It's like actually very specific to what we talk about. The name of your book is Your Soul Focus. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to talk about what it's all about, where it came from, but I am going to kind of put you through the initiation of the live stream of consciousness. What's up, Mike? Good to see you there, man. Very good to see people showing up, just showing up. Uh, Leela is welcoming you, Annette.
Thank you.
Leela, I keep calling her Leela, but her name is Lily. Her name's Ninja Kitty, really. But anyway, this show is called the Live Stream of Consciousness. It came out of a bunch of spiritual broadcasts that were going on, and then this evolved out of it. And we just love to talk about existence and what it means, and stuff like that. And obviously things related to your story. But the first question I ask everybody is to give me their definition of consciousness. What is consciousness?
Oh, that's a great question, right? Because consciousness is, I mean, it's really your soul. So it's feelings, it's thoughts combined. So, I mean, the simple answer is consciousness is your soul. Your soul lives on, consciousness lives on. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. Totally good answer. Nobody's ever put it, I think, so straightforwardly like that. But it's totally correct. It nails it on the head for me, and I think it coincides with every other answer we've gotten here. It's great. I love the question because everybody's got their own perception, but I guess it's because of the type of people I have here that's always related to what everybody else has said. Some people approach it from the collective, some people approach it from the I am, but it's all about the same thing. It's all about the energy that exists underlaying everything that connects us all. Right. I think that's really what it's all about. So awesome. Great answer. The next question I think is directly related to your story, or maybe you may have had some connection to it previous to the experience that you have in your book. But the question is really, is there a specific moment that you can remember that you realized that there was more to existence than the 3D world we're used to and have been taught about and kind of exist in for most of our life until we realize there's something more?
Yeah, there's an exact moment
Awesome.
that I can remember. I mean, it's in the book. It was the end of April of 2007. And I was at an event, and my mother-in-law, who had since died, it was a medium event. My mother-in-law was very insistent on coming through and showing me, proving to me that she was still there.
Wow.
And it took a while for me at that event, but my mother-in-law was pretty persistent. And by the end of that evening, I was like, oh my goodness, there's something to this. I don't know what it is, but I have to figure it out.
Right.
And that was April. It was the 27th, 28th, 29th of 2007. It was Sunday night. So I remember specifically when it dawned on me. Now, having said that, there were many times sprinkled throughout my life prior to that, including when I was, a teen and everybody's trying to figure things out, right?
Yeah.
Many times sprinkled throughout that something would happen that you couldn't explain, even if it's as simple as deja vu. But it's something that you couldn't explain that I would tuck in the back of my mind, but never intrigued me enough to do anything about it or try and figure it out. As you can see from my answer to the first question, I'm an accountant. It's like straightforward, and and so it's like, boom, this is what I think. So
Right.
so I really did not spend any time trying to figure it out. I just was like, that's sort of weird. But April of 2007 was the distinct moment where I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot explain this. I need to understand what's going on. So yes, I can trace back for me a specific time that I know something changed and I had to figure out. And I didn't know what changed, but I had to figure out what it was.
Right. So, but you said that there were things going on before that led you to believe she was being persistent, right? You said she was being persistent.
She was persistent that evening. She had only died not 6 months earlier than that. But yeah, she got me to that evening. She left a series of what I call breadcrumbs. And actually the breadcrumbs persisted after that, so that I could understand what's going on. I mean, what I like to say about my book is that my mother-in-law showed me that she was still here after she died through a series of synchronicities. But what happened after I accepted that, I was like, I need to figure this out. And so for about 4 years, I sunk myself into everything metaphysical. That's sort of when I came across Karen Harvey and stuff. I just needed to understand the most important question I had, which is, if we go on, what the heck are we doing here? What is this? I don't get it. Like, if she's still here.
That's a great question.
Right? It was even different than, what do you mean she's still here? Where is she? It wasn't really focused on that because although I certainly love my mother-in-law and we were a close-knit family, I wasn't in deep, intense grief that you might be in if you lose somebody. Sometimes people lose somebody so close to them. So it was more of a fascination with me. Like, I don't understand. What do you mean you're still here? So that was my question. If we go on, what the heck is going on here? So I spent about 4 years really entrenched in everything metaphysical, to the point where I got to the end of it and I was like, oh, I think I sort of get it. I know why I'm here. And so that's how I sort of came to my understanding. But the distinct opening of my eyes was that end of April 2007, and the medium, so local Long Island medium, who you may not know, Josephine Girangelli. I don't know if you know her, Josephine.
No, I don't.
Yeah, she was the person. She was the medium that my mother-in-law from the other side selected
Right.
to open my eyes.
Wow. Great. Awesome. So what was it specifically that was validation that was right?
So so I'll give you the breadcrumbs because it's just interesting the way it sort of pans out. But we buried my mother-in-law died in October of 2006, and to back up even a little further than that, my mother and my mother-in-law were both diagnosed with cancer within days of each other in 2005.
Wow.
So my mother had breast cancer and my mother-in-law had pancreatic cancer. So my family got this crash course in all things cancer, surgery, chemo, radiation. And every time we would visit one or the other, they would always ask about the other one because they were going through the same thing, you know?
Right.
So and my mother's name was Rita. She actually died this year in April.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And my father died 2 weeks before her.
Wow.
Married 67 years. There's a whole other story in there.
Wow. 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 Wow.
A real big part of that story, too. And I mean, that was amazing. It was an amazing story, amazing love story. But before my father died, I asked him to send me a very specific sign. We had like a pact. I was like, when you get to heaven, I need to see. So that's a whole other story. And he sent it through in flying colors. But anyway, to get back to, really, because I was like, you know, because now I know how it works.
Right.
You know, but I didn't back then.
I know you could do this when you get there.
I was like, you can do this. And he did. So at any rate, but back to my mother-in-law in 2000, that's 2022. This was 2006. Yep. So my mother with breast cancer, my mother-in-law with pancreatic. So pancreatic is so evil. I mean, she just deteriorated over that year and then she died. My mother made it through. She lived another 15 years until just this past April. The Wednesday after we buried her in October on a Saturday, and the Wednesday after that, my daughter, who was 13 at the time, was getting ready for school, and I was getting ready for work. So we were having breakfast together, and my mother-in-law came through my daughter first. My daughter said in a very matter-of-fact way, "Guess what? Grandma Lucille gave me a sign yesterday." Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, first of all, we never really talk about death in our family. I never talked about the afterlife.
Right.
You know, it was not anything that we ever discussed. So I think it's sort of strange that she even was so matter of fact about it. But
how old was she at the time?
13.
Okay.
And so I was just listening, and I was like, "Really? What kind of a sign?" And she said, "Pom-poms." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And I'm thinking to myself, "What the heck?" You know. Mm-hmm. But what she told me was the day before in art class, the task was to make a three-dimensional card, and she decided to make a card with 11 green and 11 red pom-poms on them. So she went. There was 12 kids in the art class. Each one had their own table. So she sort of spaced out from everybody. She went to the art closet. She got the big Tupperware of pom-poms, all different sizes and colors, and she counted. I didn't ask why 11 red and 11 green, but she counted out her 11 green, her 11 red. Wow. Counted because she was very meticulous, which she still is now as an adult. She went back to the closet, put the thing away, and she said, and then I came back to my desk, and there were my 11 green and my 11 red and one lavender and one ivory, the exact colors of the balloons we let go at Grandma's grave. And I was like,
wow.
And I was like, but then how'd they get there? And I could see she had played through all the possibilities in her mind, and she was like, I know, I wish I had seen it. They must have either floated through the air or just appeared there. I was like, you sure you did it yourself? No.
Right.
Wow. No. She goes, do you want to see them? I was like, okay. So she runs upstairs and comes downstairs and shows me her. I mean, it wasn't even like purple and white. It was lavender and ivory, like the exact colors of the balloons. It wasn't even like a shade off, you know?
Wow.
So I was a little bit floored. But I said to her, all I can say is this. If those are really from Grandma Lucille was my mother-in-law's name, then you better be buried with them in your coffin when you die, because that is like a miracle.
Well, that's amazing, yeah.
Right? So that's the first thing. Now, I have to say in the back of my mind, not I don't want to say I was skeptical about the afterlife, but I certainly wouldn't say I believed in it. I certainly didn't believe in it. I thought to myself, my goodness, I wonder if my daughter is going through some psychological grief coping problem.
Right.
Like that I have to,
Wow.
figure
Right.
out.
So you're thinking she put them in the mix. Possibly. Yeah.
You know,
And I'm just thinking 11:11. I'm thinking 11:11. She just
I
like,
know,
you know.
I know, I know. So at any rate, over the course of the upcoming weeks, I was telling the pom pom story to everyone. I mean, I was probably at the same. I saw Marianne Faulkner's name come up. Marianne and I worked together years ago.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I was probably
Welcome, Marianne.
welcome, Marianne. And I was, just telling everybody I ran into this pom pom story, and then the next breadcrumb was I was telling a girlfriend of mine who was my friend for at least 10 years, and she's still my friend.
Right.
And she listened to my whole story. And she listened, and at the end, she was like waiting for me to just embrace the afterlife topic,
Right.
She was like, "Well, you believe in the afterlife, don't you?" Like she was shocked I didn't believe in it, which I would be now to someone. But
right.
That, by the
Like,
way,
it's so obvious, right?
the subtitle of my book. You believe in the afterlife, don't you? Because that was the line that was like starting to pry my eyes open. So now I had this credible girlfriend telling me that she believed that my life goes on and that the pom pom story was real and valid.
Yeah.
And then she told me that she frequented a medium, Josephine Girangelli. Every once in a while, she needed to tap into her deceased father. And Josephine would bring the father in, and she would ask real life questions like, should we move? And I'm thinking of naming my son X. What do you think? Like, so she's conversing. And so my jaw was dropped. I was like, really? So now I had this very close friend who believed in it. Then the next breadcrumb, a couple of weeks after that, it was December, early December. We went out to dinner in my town in I don't know if you know Farmingdale, but it's a nice main street there.
Yeah, Farmingdale's great. Awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
So, town in Farmingdale, and I was with my recently widowed father-in-law, my husband, and my son, and we were seated at a table with a big poster in the window, and the poster was facing the street, but we could see the back of it, and this poster said, "Dinner and Medium Show with Josephine G," the same medium my girlfriend just told me about.
Wow.
Now I'm thinking it's the synchronicities, right?
No coincidences, yeah.
December, and the show was the end of April of 2007.
Okay.
So I was like very excited, thinking, wow, that's sort of cool and crazy, and I can't believe it.
Yeah.
So I go back home, I call my girlfriend, I'm like, do you want to go to the show in April? She said, absolutely. I called up, I made reservations, Annette party of 3, not for any reason, but that's just, I made the reservations, and we got a third girlfriend to go. And so now that was going to be in April. And between December and April, I was just telling everybody I knew the pom pom story. And what I was shocked at is if people either shut you down, they don't want to hear it.
Right.
If they do want to hear it,
they want you to come into the whole thing. Yeah.
So many of them have their own stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to give. Yeah, it's amazing. Marianne is out there saying she loves the story of the pom poms. I know she misspelled it into pompous. And I want to also welcome Michael. Welcome, Michael. Michael is going to be a guest on the show in a few weeks, and he's been coming and listening to the show and loving the discussion. So thanks for being here, Mike.
Thank you.
It looks like we've got Scott King here, who is in London. So that's really exciting. Scott King is a male fitness bodybuilder who I shot because I'm a photographer. So I did some photographs of him. I posted one recently on Facebook, and I think that might be why he dropped in. And Mike Porter is out there telling me to call him. I will call you, Mike Porter, for sure. But I really appreciate everybody being there. And this story is so freaking awesome. I'm so excited that you're telling this to us. Now, you're not giving away your whole book, are you?
Something very early on, I did a YouTube interview with a wonderful woman, Sandra Champlain. And she gave me great advice. Don't worry about sharing. I'll share everything in my book. And if people want to get the book, great. And if they don't want to get the book, that's fine. But,
Thank you. That is great advice.
She
Wonderful.
said, undersharing is a typical concern. People say, I don't want to give everything away.
Right.
And I don't mind. I'm like,
we're here to share. That's your story is going to touch someone, then you want them to get it and feel it, right?
And I mean, my purpose is to have more people understand that we go on and live a more rich and full life, because like yourself and Karen Garvey, it raises the spiritual vibration of the universe and helps us all, the more of us that understand what's going on.
I love it.
So yes, this is definitely part of a chapter in the book, but there's a lot in the book anyway. So
cool. All right, then give us what you got, because this story is amazing. This is like Jill is saying the book is on the way. Jill is I was talking about Jill, who made me the bracelet, and she ordered the book. She loves all of the people that come on the show and order their stuff, and it's like it's almost like I could like say, hey, I guarantee you'll get a sale from the show. It's awesome.
And I hope she loves the book, and hope it helps in any way, helps the curiosity, or if somebody's in grief. But anyway, and one of the most fascinating stories between that December and April, because I was my background's CPA. I'm a healthcare executive.
Right. You were saying you're an accountant, right?
In New York. Yeah. And at the time that I was learning about this, I was the CEO and CFO of a major Long Island practice. So I was really ginger about who I told this to.
Right.
I was very concerned for my reputation.
Sure.
And I didn't want people to think it was crazy,
Sure.
Talked about this stuff. But anyway, one of the people I spoke to was one of the healthcare consultants that I was using at my place of employment. And when I told him the story, he said, I'm going to tell you something I've never told anybody, which everybody starts with. I'm going to tell you, because nobody talks about it.
Right.
I'm talking about. And he said to me that he and his wife were parking in the parking lot of a hospital to visit a sick relative. And he and his wife saw his deceased father, the spirit of his deceased father, at the same time. I was
I just got crazy chills.
I mean, the story was like nothing compared to what I was hearing. And he was a credible, consultant.
That's amazing. Oh my God, I'm turning red. You just gave me amazing chills. That's awesome. That's such a great story.
Right. So when I'm here, I'm between December and April.
Put on that blue light.
Pom-pom story, and I'm hearing example after example after example of we go on.
Right.
I was like, this is sort of amazing. Anyway, so it's the end of April. So end of April, we show up at the restaurant. It's like a typical scene that you would see on TV, where there's one person with a microphone, the medium reading, and all these people sitting. So, we all maybe 100, 150 people. We all have dinner, and after dinner, this woman comes out, and I'm thinking of it like a magic show. She's going to do tricks,
Right.
I still don't, even if we go on, it doesn't make sense to me that she knows the whole thing didn't make sense. But anyway, so the first set of people that Josephine reads is this table over there, and they're all crying. It's a deceased firefighter or deceased police officer, and they're really distraught, and she's bringing through the spirit. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, they obviously are planted there. They know her, whatever. Mm-hmm. And but the second reading, she comes right over to our table. And she says, okay, I have a woman here named Lucille. Lucille's my mother-in-law's name. Named Lucille. She's got black hair, which my mother-in-law had, and she's holding her stomach like she died of stomach cancer or something like stomach cancer. My mother-in-law had died of pancreatic.
Right.
So I'm thinking, my girlfriend ratted me out. Like I was not thinking this was.
You didn't believe it. Yeah, you didn't believe it at all.
I would not raise my hand. I did not raise my hand, and my girlfriend's kicking me under the table. It's your mother-in-law. Take the microphone. I'm like, I'm not. I was petrified.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
I didn't take the microphone. Eventually, Josephine backs off. She leaves that, and she ends up. The woman behind me raises her hand. My name's Elizabeth. It has an L in it, so she gives Elizabeth the microphone. And Elizabeth, she says, Elizabeth, are you going to Italy soon? I see you just booked a trip to Italy. I had booked a trip to Italy. And so is now giving information to dress me to a
Right. Oh my God, I'm getting chills. This is great.
That's not a real read either. So she retreats out, reads somebody else. And this is pivotal. My mother-in-law's insistent. She comes back.
You were saying at the beginning, yeah.
Comes back, and so she comes to the table again. She said, "This woman is still here. If it's not Lucille, maybe Lou, something with an L, black." And this time, I got my bravery up, and I raised my hand, and I was like, "I think it's for me." She gave me the microphone, and then she said the line that opened my eyes, like went from slits to like, whoa. She said, "Oh, yes, this is definitely for you. This spirit is asking me, how is Rita? She's still here, isn't she?" Rita was my mother's name. And again, remember I told you, every time I'd go to one or the other, how's Rita? How's Lucille? How's Rita? I think my mother-in-law knew that would resonate with me because it would be something she would ask. She asked every.
Of course. Yeah.
And I know now she knew how Rita was. So it's not like she needed to know how Rita was.
No, it was her way to give you validation and make you. I'm like tearing up, man. This is the first time I've had an emotional reaction to a guest. This is great. I love it.
Yeah. So once she said that was like, ching. So then she continued to read very specific, valid things. And at the end of that evening, I was like, I have to take the reins from my mother-in-law. She obviously is here. I have to figure this out. And so over the course of the first thing I did is my mother-in-law, right? It's my husband's mother. So the first thing I did is go home. It was like late at night on a Sunday night. And I said to my husband, "Are you awake?" And he was like, And then I proceeded to say, like just tell him everything, like your mother was there, your mother this.
Wow, yeah.
What? And I'm like, I know. Anyway, so I proceeded over the course of the next 4 years to sink myself into everything metaphysical. And my mother-in-law engaged, I guess, with my other deceased relatives. My uncle came into the picture. My grandmother came into the picture. My spirit guides, which I didn't even want to have to believe in spirit guides. Like that seemed really out there. But my spirit guides gave me dream downloads. So it was a real concerted effort to get me to understand the afterlife.
Okay.
And so that would, like I said, that was like about 4 years. So let's say 2007 to 2011 or so.
Okay.
And at the end of that, I was like, I'm done. But as the universe would have it, I kept getting put in the path of other people in my professional life, my personal life, who like needed a piece of information that I had learned. So they would be going through something, and I'd be like, "Oh, I know why you're going through that because." And so I started getting this really positive feedback. And even though I'm in healthcare, I'm an accountant in healthcare. I'm like I'm a doctor or a nurse. And so where you might be used to getting feedback about changing someone's life, I was not, as an accountant, really used to people saying, "Oh, you changed my life." But now I was getting people saying, "Oh my goodness, you changed my life. Oh my goodness." And so I ended up saying at the end of another probably 4 or 5 years, I have to summarize this into a book. I just put a book out there and take, it's my skill set even at work. I mean, Marianne would know this. I take big elusive topics and I can skinny them down and get them to be relatable. And so and do their job well. And so
that's important. That's really important.
That's my skill set. So
that's what I do here, and that's kind of, I feel a calling to be doing this and having these conversations, and that's probably why you want to come on a show and talk about it, because you feel like it's super easy to relate to. Like you said, the response you've been getting when you tell people is like, "Oh my God," and listen to this. It's really an amazing story, Annette. And again, I thank you for coming on the show and being so so open with it. And Marion says, "Oh, you sure can." And yeah, it is really great. And I just want to bring up here, if people are interested in the story, you could get it on Amazon. Your Soul Focus is the name of the book. and it is just such an intriguing story. And Annette knows exactly how to tell a story without giving away the book, and she doesn't even care if she does. She wants you, if you want to buy it, you will, and she knows that. She knows that how energy works, and if her
After I
energy.
put the book out there, and of course, the way the universe works, the first one was printed on my mother-in-law's birthday, into
Mhm.
'cause that's the way the universe works, which I understand now, which I didn't understand.
Wow.
But about 3 weeks after I put it out there, like the power of social media, I had this woman from Seattle, Washington,
Right.
actually reach out to me and say, "I just want to thank you. My young adult son, I think he was like 21 or 23, died about 3 years ago, and I've been so struggling with it, and I've been reading so much, and your book was so understandable to me and put such a different perspective in it that I just want you to know how much it helped me." And I was like, "Oh, I'm done." Like I don't need to sell another one. I don't like how would I ever reach someone in Seattle? I'm in New York.
Amazing, amazing, totally amazing. Laureen says your skill set was developed in order that you could have what you needed to write the book.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lorraine, because I have to say, a girlfriend of mine, after I wrote the book, she said, "Geez, your mother-in-law must have been such a strong person." And I was like, "Well, she was strong, but she wasn't like much stronger than everybody else, I don't think." And she
Right.
was, then the two of you must have been so close. And I
Mhm.
was like, "We were close, but I don't know about like we were a close family, but I don't know
Mhm.
about super close." She goes, "Well, why'd she pick you to come
Mhm.
through to?" And I was like,
Mhm.
"I don't know." And then
Mhm.
my girlfriend, after another hour or so, she came back to me. She was like, "Oh, I figured it out. She came through to you because she knew you'd write the book."
Mhm.
And I was like, something, you're right. She knew I'm going to come. I'm going to take this information in,
Mhm.
and using my skill set, I'm going to write a book. And I have to say, I'm a numbers person. I don't
Mhm.
like reading. I can't even
Mhm.
believe I wrote a book.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
I'm a numbers person. I love numbers. But
Mhm.
she knew I would be able to write it in a very understandable kind of way, and sort of get the afterlife word out there. And
Yeah.
I approached you because I take every opportunity I can to to share. Anybody who
Right.
says, I mean, I've done dozens of interviews so
Yeah,
far.
absolutely. That's amazing. And yeah, I feel like the power of that, for sure. You're definitely being guided to share your story. Laureen says that you have a soul contract to work together, you and your
Oh,
mom, your
yeah,
mother-in-law.
for
And I
sure.
love that the viewers or the chat, there are people talking to each other. I think Michael is saying yep to Laureen.
Yes.
Um and that's just it really is amazing. Like you said, once you kind of tap into this understanding, you can't go back, right? You can't unknow what you know, right? So I have a couple of questions for you that might be interesting, because I feel like there certainly is a difference in. Oh, Jill is a fellow CPA. I see me and you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jill and I talk about seeing your reflection in others all the time. It's really amazing. But obviously there's a very spiritual aspect to you, that kind of understands things that people think are odd and people are afraid to talk about. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's wonderful that you're not, and that you wrote this book. But I think there's more to it. Obviously, with you, I think you understand the power in the story and making ripples, just telling the story, feeling good because that's who you are, and you're
Mhm.
just being you by telling the story and making those ripples,
Mhm.
and affecting people. It's just really, really powerful. um I
Yeah. Thank
didn't
you very much.
Yeah, it's great to. I love this. Again, I feel like this is kind of my calling, is to receive that, and be able to share it with people, and I make my ripples that way. So we're both making some ripples together. I really appreciate it. It's awesome.
It's interesting because I really feel that I only learned sort of recently in life that part of our responsibility is to share. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
learned it more once I put the book out there, because now thousands of people have read it, and I've gotten so many people
mhm,
saying, "Oh my goodness, thank you so much, you helped me," and you
right,
know, so all that praise that I'd gotten sort of one on one in the workplace or in my private life, personal
mhm,
life, I now have because of social media, like even people all throughout the world. But I really only I used to live way more of a private life than I
right,
do now, because now I almost feel like a responsibility to share.
And it's the time. The time is right now, because people are so receptive to it, and they're like, what, they relate it to, their own experiences. And I remember what I was going to say. I totally had lost it, but I totally remember now. And that is, are you still a CPA? You're still a
Yeah,
CPA, right?
I work,
So
yeah, I work for, you probably know it, being from Long Island, Northwell Health.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So,
So,
yeah, I
well, my
run.
question is this. My question is this, because that is, like you said, that's such a straightforward, logical way of thinking, right? And that's kind of, I feel like, I feel like there's more to the story, and I don't want to get into any sort of anything too wacky, but I feel like the reason that spirituality and these stories are so um common and also engaging is because there's these layers that are on us, as far as, like, you're working as an accountant. You're kind of on this. Stephen Durante, who was a guest of the show, I don't know if you know him, he's a meditation coach.
Mhm.
And you sit down and he starts talking about this hamster wheel, that you're on, and you're always on that hamster wheel. What am I doing next? Who do I got to email? What have I got on my list to do? And that's kind of how we're raised and put into this system. Again, I'm not trying to get too controversial, but I feel like spirituality is, some of those layers are, you're able to see past some of those layers, some of the things you've been taught. That's why I ask it that way. That you've been taught this three-dimensional life that we live in is it's very specific and very convincing. But again, once you see past it, you understand that there's more to it. So how has that affected your life as an accountant and your life in the corporate world?
So because I love numbers.
Hmm.
I am one of these people who actually loves my job. As crazy as it sounds, I've always, every
It
position,
sounds awesome. It's not crazy. I love that.
every position I've ever held, I love it.
Right.
I end up, so no matter where I've been over the course of, well, I almost my whole career, I end up being in the wonderful a position of leadership, and I'm able to impact people starting out in their careers.
Mhm, mhm,
Um,
mhm,
I have that education aspect to me where I can, and because I love sharing, I give everybody, as much information as I can give them to have them be successful. So I feel like in my world, in my work life, I've always been a kind, spiritual person, because I really just want people to do well.
mhm.
So so
It's
that's
great.
in my work life. Now, having said that, you're absolutely right. The spirituality and especially the metaphysical afterlife. It's one thing to be spiritual and kind. It's another
Mhm,
thing to believe in metaphysics and astral projection and the afterlife and those kinds of things. And so, for a very long time, I had to keep that really a low profile on that, because I was very concerned about my professional reputation.
mhm,
And it
mhm,
wasn't until very recently, I put the book out recently, that I
mhm,
I got to the point in my life where I said it's more important for me to put my book out there,
mhm,
and it's what it is. If people, you know, if my current employer feels that this is inappropriate and I end up getting knocked down the totem pole, and so be it. It's more important that I help people in a way that people I can't reach right now, than it
right.
is me and my job. Now, having said that, because the universe is wonderful and works that way, I put
Mhm,
it out, and my direct boss, who is an unbelievable powerhouse woman, she's a nurse and MBA. Um, it wasn't until I had it done that I
mhm.
told her, by the way, I wrote a book. And actually,
Right, right, right.
the way it came up was she called me right before my book came out. She called. We were in a meeting or something, and she said, when my father died, Annette, you really helped me. And I was like, oh my goodness. Um, I didn't really remember what I had said, but I'm sure I had taken some of my learnings and pearls of wisdom when her father died.
Mhm,
She
mhm,
said, you really helped me. And I have a cousin that's in a situation now, where I would love if you could recommend any books. I would
mhm.
give it to my cousin. My cousin's going through some grief also.
Mhm.
And I said, this is the opportunity for me to tell her I wrote a book. So I told her I wrote a book, and she was so wonderful about it. She could not have been more wonderful about it. So
Awesome.
she was thrilled for me and happy, and she knows how hard I work. So it's not like it took away from my work life at all.
She sees you. She still knows that you're still you.
Yes.
And it's just a part of you she hasn't seen before, and even it's probably an intriguing and engaging part of you now. You know, I mean, it's quite an accomplishment to write a book, I would say. You know.
Yeah. So the way it worked out, it just worked out. So, but you're right. That accounting skill set is very different than the afterlife skill set, but still connected.
Right. Sure. I had a great conversation with somebody. I just want to acknowledge the comments. Bringing that spirituality into the workplace is our next step to transform the energy out of the 3D matrix. Michael Wellhouse also falling in love with another guest. He was like so happy with the conversation we had last week, and now that's so great that we can have a conversation and people can appreciate it. That's what I love about this platform. Just being able to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, totally. Of course, I forgot what it was I was going to say.
The whole multitasking, like I don't think I could ever do what you're doing, like looking at the comments and keeping the conversation. Like,
oh yeah, you know what? Again, it's like if you're doing what you love, it doesn't feel like work. I just love. I love that people are being engaged by this, and feeling it. It's all. It's all energy to me. You know what I mean? It's like I talk about all the time, energy exchange. Like right now, what's so cool about this moment right now is me and you are having our own energy exchange, right? Me and you are talking about your story. I'm receiving it. You're telling it to me, but there are other people watching who are also receiving that energy. There's going to be a replay. So like people are going to see this, and it's just amazing how this works. And I'm just like, I'm trying to be an energy generator,
Yes.
So I appreciate you being here. This story is totally amazing. So I was going to ask you a question. I have so many questions. I guess it's just really about, the difference in life and what spirituality has brought to you, but I want to hear more of the story. Is there more? There's got to be more to it. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, so after I accepted the fact that my mother-in-law still is here, like I said, I spent about 4 years learning everything metaphysical, and one of the biggest things I learned, because again, my question was, if we go on, what are we doing here? One of the biggest things I learned is that here is this teeny tiny sliver of our soul's journey, path, existence. So we come back, we go on back. I did not want to have to believe in reincarnation. Now I understand it's a fact, you do reincarnate. And when I understood that we're this teeny tiny sliver, it put a whole new perspective on everything to me.
Wow.
A whole new perspective, because I learned that we're actually born intentionally with these kind of what I call dunce caps on, almost like blinders, where you really aren't supposed to know what your soul, how big your soul is. If you were to understand that while you're living on Earth in this earthly life, you would be unbelievably distracted and come here intentionally with a purpose. And the purpose can be something big. Everyone likes to think, oh, it's a big purpose. It can be something very small. It can be to move the needle a little bit. It can actually be a purpose that has nothing to do with you. That is a purpose just for someone else. Your whole life, 80 years here, could be for someone else.
Right.
Because
your grandkid to remember you or something like that, or
it could be a stranger.
Yeah, it could be a stranger, somebody you met, right?
Yeah, it could be. This is just like an example. I'm just making it up, but it could be that you're in a car crash and a stranger comes and right next to the car crash, and you end up dying in that stranger's arms. And maybe you come back later so that you can repay that person. You will be a hospice nurse to help their soul transition to the other side because they have terminal cancer. So
that's a great story, a great example. Yeah.
Let me make an example.
Yeah, great. I love it.
You're right. You could come back here having nothing to do with you, really.
Right.
And you can have all your fun along the way. This funny thing came up on Facebook once. It said, some people come back for karma. I came back for the cake. You can, you can have your all that great physical stuff that we get to be part of here, which is wonderful. But really, we all come here with a purpose. And it could be a lot of little purposes, could be one little purpose, could be a lot of big purposes. But that's our main objective, is that so that when we cross back our soul group, like somebody said, soul contract, we'll be like high five. You did your purpose.
Right.
People.
Well, let me interrupt you there for a second,
because
I feel like it is defined. That purpose is defined, and that purpose is to be you. You're here to be you, because whatever it is that you are, as long as you're finding who you are and being authentic, that you is serving its purpose, right? You're affecting people the way you're supposed to. You're contributing the energy you're supposed to the collective. So that's just my kind of variation on what you're saying. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, that's okay. That's okay. And you're absolutely right. It's to do what you have to do here, whether it's something small, big, but as long as you're moving forward in I think, like to say, in kindness, then you're moving toward your purpose, and it can't, right? And it can be something like just moving the needle a little bit, but people, but the reason we come here on Earth, besides the cake, is because this is really the only place that's got intense sadness and grief and burdens and the intensity of emotions that we feel here. You don't feel that intensity of emotion on the other side. You don't feel it. So you come here for the tests, and because you're going to fast track your growth when you come here. So I give people this, in my book, I give people this analogy, and I've said it to people in life, and people like it. It's a little bit like mind-blowing to some extent, but you go in groups, soul groups of like 150 or 200 souls, right? And the objective of the soul group is to grow, and it's a collective growth. So you want to raise your vibration, raise your level of light. So now let's say you're on the other side, because it's not about here, it's about the other side. The other side is more important than here. So it's about the other side, it's not about here, but we're born with these. Ego has a negative connotation. It's not really negative. We're born with egos.
Right.
It has to do with like Einstein's theory of relativity. We can only relate to what we can relate to. We're intentionally born only being able to relate to here. So now we are on the other side, and there are people in the souls in the soul group. And let's say there are, there's 1 or 2 or 10 souls that are a little bit more evolved, a little bit lighter than some of the other souls in the soul group. And they know that we all together need to grow to get to the next level or to grow at all. So a little bit more evolved one may say, I know what we'll do. So here's a soul contract. I know what we'll do. I will come back to Earth as your child, of the two people that are a little bit lagging behind. I will come back as your child. And I, at 5 years old, will die of leukemia. And you will have to live your life with that grief.
Right. And transmute it into.
If you can, like what you said, your friend,
right?
Newsom?
Linda Newsom, yeah.
Newsom, right?
Yeah.
She have taken that grief and has, impacted exponentially for the better how many people?
You got it. You totally got it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now her son on the other side is going to be so proud of her.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
Right? Because she's fast tracking her growth, and he gave her that opportunity to do that.
Wow. So let me ask you a question, because you are saying some amazing stuff right here. That is
around. Right? I know.
Totally. It's so insightful and so brilliant, and the world needs to hear all this stuff. It's amazing. I keep forgetting what it is. My question. It's like, what do I want? What do I want to say to you? Um, I stopped you, and I'm sorry. My brain is you. You are just like
Yeah, there's a lot
tingling.
of
Yeah, yeah. It's just so it's so relevant and so yeah, it's so
I
important.
mean, like I said, when I entrench myself in everything metaphysical, what
Mhm,
I found first, right off the bat, is there is so much literature out there. Besides the fact that so many people experience, the literature out there is overwhelming. And
mhm,
so I felt like I was charged, like I
mhm,
am in my work life, on taking massive amounts of data, massive amounts, and just pulling out the things that resonate with me and throwing
mhm.
away the things that don't.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's how I was able to sort of come up with analogies. So, because at the end of the day, what I want people to appreciate once they read my book
Mhm,
is one big point. Maybe because of your ego, and again, ego is, in my opinion, ego is not a bad word. It has a negative connotation, but it's not a bad word. But because of the blinders,
mhm, mhm,
maybe your entire perception of you and your life and your deceased loved ones is totally reversed.
mhm, mhm.
Maybe it's totally not what
Wow.
you see.
Wow. 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 Yeah. So so
You know?
man, I have to. You are just a fountain of amazing infinite wisdom, and I love this. It's you're like downloading it to the internet for us, like people can see this and hear it and get it. I just have to acknowledge my amazing viewers out there who are interacting with us. Michael Wellhouse says he's a non-denominational Christian minister, and he loves that we are focused on spirituality rather than religion. Annette is deep. This is so good.
You know something? I want to say something about that.
Yeah,
I
great.
think spirituality, common spirituality, is the new religion.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because as the internet has become more pervasive and people are
Yep.
more connected all over the world,
Yep.
religion, traditional religion,
Hmm.
holds a different place in people's lives. It still
Hmm.
holds a place,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
it doesn't have the same level of power
Right.
when you're in a community and you're insulated.
Right.
And so, to some extent, this common non-denominational spirituality is its own new religion. That's
Absolutely, absolutely. Michael is going to be a guest on the show, and I cannot wait to speak to him because he's a theologist. He's
yeah,
deeply rooted in the religious aspects of spirituality. But the show isn't spirituality versus religion; it's spirituality and religion and how they work together
yeah.
and how the commonality between them. I can't wait to have that show, Michael, with you. And thank you so much for being here and contributing your love. Michael is all about love. We have conversations about this. When we met, we both knew that we were put on this earth to generate love and share it with the rest of humanity. So that's why we're friends, and that's why we talk, and that's why he's
Love
here.
friends.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lorene is saying she loves cake. We were talking about cake before. She says purpose can be as simple as making a simple statement or gesture of kindness that one person that you may or may not know could hear, that changes their life. And
Yes,
it's just so true.
yes,
It's so true. Jill is saying if we knew the answers, it wouldn't be a test. That is also the truth.
yes.
And that's why we're here figuring it all out. And I think part of the cool thing is figuring out how to take that test in complete joy and gratitude, and be grateful for the test. That was actually something, one of the things I was going to say to you earlier was, I'm going to take a stab at saying that you live with gratitude. You are
Oh,
definitely understanding gratitude.
oh
You
yeah. I actually always have.
Yeah,
Even before I knew about the afterlife,
yeah,
I've always been very, very blessed and very grateful. Grateful.
yeah. There's only a few things that you need to kind of understand, and I think those are the keys to open up everything else, and that is love and gratitude, humility. A few things that are just, ego is not a bad thing, but if you understand humility and what your ego is there for,
Right.
it's a much different thing than most people let it be.
Yes, yes.
A
Ego's
lot
meant
of
to serve the purposes, no doubt about
right,
it.
right,
You
right.
know? It keeps
Um,
us focused on the what we decided to come here for. It keeps us focused.
Absolutely. Laureen is making a comment. Annette is so well plugged in. Great job, sister. Yes. I
Thank you.
love the divine feminine energy. I have so much respect for it, and I love it.
Thank
So
you.
it's always welcome here. Jill is saying yes, new way to see grief. And she said something about transmuting grief. totally.
Yes.
You
Yeah, I
got
have that section in my book too about grief because what I say is that grief is really wanting what has passed already. That's the wanting that's really it. And so the interesting thing is that we all, even without the loss of someone, we grieve all the time. Like I say in my book, if I think of my kids when they were 2 and 3 years old, 3 and 4 years old, they were so freaking cute. You know, they were just so great. I mean, they were just little teeny little.
They're still great in that. They're
They,
still great.
still, they're so great, but really, I'm the only one who remembers that, and my husband.
Right.
They don't remember it.
Right.
I feel like
But they gave you that. They gave you that those moments,
yes,
to look back on and be like, oh, I have this as part of who I am. I have those moments to be grateful for.
right. And in reality, I could lose myself in that grief of not ever having that again. They're never going to be that again. I'm never going to have that again. I'm grateful that I had that, but I'm never going to have it again. And you can get totally lost in that grief, whether it's a past relationship that you're never going to have again, or your current relationship isn't what it was, or you can get totally lost and really grief stricken. And the only thing that sort of pulls, like in my case with the kids, me out of it is the fact that I can see them tomorrow or the next day as adults. But when you lose somebody to the other side, there's really nothing to pull you out of it. The actual grief part of it is the same. It's the exact same.
Right.
It's deep, intense. I can't have what I had.
Right.
I'll never have that again.
Right.
But the problem is, there's nothing to pull you out the other side.
Right.
Like I lost
Wait a second. I mean, you're saying there's nothing to pull you out the other side, but you wrote a book about how you connected with your mother-in-law. So didn't that pull you out of that grief? I mean,
so that's a good question. I think there are two almost levels of grief. One is this grief that once you understand that life goes on, you sort of are like, oh, that's wonderful. And it does cure a certain amount or help you get through a certain amount of grief. But there's another grief that just, you can never have what you had.
Spend a moment with that person.
All came through with a little tidbit, but I can't speak with her. I can't have a conversation. I can't hug her. So, and I learned it with my parents. I was going to say my parents died 2 weeks apart from each other in April.
Right, you said that, yeah.
And it's a whole other story. But they were in at-home hospice. Sister and me caring for them, working remotely, caring for them for 3 months. So, and they both died at home, one and then the other.
So that's interesting to me also that you're even mentioning that, because it has been mentioned and it has been very significant, the concept of being there at the moment of death with somebody like a mother or a father or a son or a daughter, and having it be such a significantly spiritual moment and not the sad moment that you would think. How was that? How was that moment for you?
So I like to say this with regard to my parents. My parents died the way they lived. So my mother and father were married 67 years, and my mother was unbelievably social, wanting to go out, loving people, loving anything having to do with anybody, can talk, over, story after story. Just, she was the light. Everyone was attracted to her, and she was just, a wonderful social being. My father was a real homebody. They were the complete opposites attract. So my dad was a real homebody, and he did not like to go out. He was like a magnet to his home. The second he was out, it was like a magnet pulled him back. He really preferred to be home. So every time they went out, even if they were just coming over to my house for dinner, my father would just sort of patiently wait for my mother to sort of give him the sign that it was time to get going home, because he really wanted to be home. And the second she looked like she might be getting ready to go home, he would put his hat, his coat on, he'd be in the car waiting for her, and she would be with her goodbyes, and then she would be in the car, and he would. So that's how they lived. So and my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer in the end of January. So she really wasn't sick that long. She died within 3 months. My father had no acute illness. He had. We're still not sure what he died of. It's like he died of a broken heart, but he died before her. So So what happened was on Saturday, March 26th, or whatever that Saturday was. They were in bed together holding hands, and he got agitated, like at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock. He got agitated. I'm not going to sleep in bed tonight. I'm not going to sleep in bed. My sister and I caring for him, so we were there. And he said, I'm going to sleep in the recliner tonight. Okay, fine. Sleeps in the recliner. And the next day, now my mother is in a hospice, not hospice yet. 2 days hospice is coming, but she's in a bed, basically dying of lung cancer. And non-negative, very, very horrible, horrible situation.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, horrible. But my father, the next day, stopped eating, stopped walking. I said, I can't walk. I don't know why I can't walk.
Wow.
Became incontinent.
So they were connected. He knew. Yeah, they were connected.
Got a virus or something? What's going on? Should I take him to a hospital? Then I'm like, what am I going to? He's 92. I'm going to take him to a hospital. If he dies in a hospital, she's dying at home. This whole thing is crazy. So when the hospice doctor came for her the next day, I said, can you take a look at my dad and see what's going on with him?
Right.
The doctor looked at him, evaluated him, and pulls my sister and I aside and says, I don't know how to tell you this, but he's further along in the dying process than your mother is. And we were like, what? he was eating.
That's crazy.
And walking 2 days. Like, what are you talking about?
That's crazy.
And so hospice came in, 2 hospital beds in the same house. He died in 2 weeks. She was stable during that 2 weeks. The day after he died, her heart starts going, and she dies 2 weeks after that.
Wow.
So afterwards, I realized that Saturday night, they were holding hands, and their souls spoke to each other. Mm-hmm. He heard her, oh, we're going home? Oh, no problem. I'll get my hat. Because he just, boom, slid 2 weeks, and he was gone. He died before we woke up that morning. So 6 o'clock, my sister wakes up, comes running upstairs to me. Oh, my God, I think he's dead. So he died in a very private way. My mother was in the hospital bed right next to him, but neither my sister or I were there. And he was still warm, so he died very recently to that, but not with us there. My mother, and that was a Tuesday morning, my mother on that 2 Saturdays after that, it was about 9 o'clock Saturday morning, my daughter, my adult daughter, came with bagels for breakfast for my sister and I. We knew my mother didn't have long because she was breathing shallow for like a week now.
Oh, geez.
And what happened was we were sitting in the room where she was now, just one single hospital bed because my father wasn't there. My mother couldn't go to the funeral or anything, So we're in the room, and my daughter and sister are on either side of her, and my daughter goes to hold her hand. And I was like, can both of you hold her hands? They both hold her hands. My daughter starts crying uncontrollably, like loud. And I was like, something about it shook me. And I was like, let's pray. So we started praying very loud. Our Father, who art in heaven, Hail Mary, full of grace. So we're praying. My daughter's crying hysterical. My mother's had her eyes closed for many days now. My sister is crying, sobbing, also praying. I lean over. I look at my mother. A tear comes down her eyes, tears coming down her eyes. Then her eyes shoot open. She looks up in the corner. Me knowing about the afterlife, I start, my daughter's crying hysterical. My sister's praying, Our Father, who art in heaven. And I'm like, Mom, go. Dad, grab her. Go. That's heaven. Heaven's there. There's no pain in heaven.
Oof. God.
Gotta go. Go. There's no pain there. Just go. Go to heaven. Go to heaven. You belong there. So the whole scene was an unbelievably intense, emotional 10 minutes.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's
I'm emotional. It's like, it's crazy. Yeah.
My mother wanted every female energy that she had in her life was in that room. She's got 2 daughters, myself and my sister. She's got 1 granddaughter, my daughter. We have 2 dogs that are females. They were there. None of the male energy. My father was already on the other side. My brother was coming over for the weekend. He missed the death by about a half hour. He was taking the subway, the train. So he missed it. And my husband and my son were not there. So she died with the fanfare and just like that kind of a intensity, the way she lived, and he died the way he lived.
Annette, man, you have been. This has been such an amazing. Where I've been going over the time because these conversations have been great. No, don't be sorry. This is phenomenal. Laureen says this has been a great show. Deepest condolences, but grateful for your recognition of the afterlife. She had to go a couple minutes ago, but blessings to all. And Michael, again, thank you for being here the whole time. My wife and I lost all 4 of our parents in less than a 3-year period. He's going to share the details on September 22nd. He's going to be my guest. I cannot wait to have a powwow with my brother Michael. It's going to be awesome. But you phenomenal. Thank you so much for contacting me and being on this show. The story is phenomenal, so tell it everywhere you can. I've got your Soul Focus on the bottom of the screen. If anyone's interested in the book, you can get it on Amazon. Just do a search for it. What's next for you?
So that's a great question, because I really feel like I'm done, but I will say one other thing.
You're not done.
I donated a chapter to a book that's called Gathering at the Doorway.
Okay.
All the proceeds go to mental health and afterlife, organizations. And this woman, Camille Dan, who's helped me to promote this Streams of Consciousness also, she was in Canada. Her son died. She got about 35 or 40 authors and people, not all authors together, to all donate one chapter.
Wow.
And like I'm on chapter 6. And
that's awesome.
And it's all different walks of life from all over the world, and all the proceeds go to charity. So in addition to Your Soul Focus, my book, I have a chapter. I wrote a new chapter in that book also, which we launched in May.
And so, is that about your mother-in-law, or is it about your parents now?
It's about how I learned how I learned to act. How I learned to act on things when the universe calls me. I used to be a little bit chicken on that, like a little bit, but now I'm more brave. When I feel that pull from the universe, I do what I have to do.
I love it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Let me just grab a little sip of water and I can get us out of here. Again, thank you so much for coming, for contacting me, for being here, for being so brave, for I think really also I want to thank you for loving what you do as an accountant and embracing the spiritual side of you as well. I think that's a real achievement in this day and age. There's so many layers of stuff on us, and a lot of accountants probably aren't in love with their job like you are. So you're blessed, and I'm sure you're grateful that you love your job. I loved the aspects that you were grateful for, leading people and helping people and seeing people grow. I mean, those are true spiritual attributes. You sound like you live in your heart, and I think that's why your mother-in-law was so what's the word I'm looking for? What did you say she was? She was diligent in making sure, persistent. I think it's amazing. It's amazing. Next week I have Robin Speiler on the show. Speiler, I'm not sure how to say it. I'm gonna learn next week. But again, thank you so much for being here. Any words of wisdom for our audience before I play the outro?
I like to end on one thing, if I may, and that's in terms of people living their life. If people can lose the feeling associated with the word compare, we'd all be better off. That's like a one tidbit. And I'm not talking about comparing yourself to others.
Love that.
But don't even compare yourself to what you used to be. Right. Don't compare yourself to what you thought you would be at this point in your life. Just lose the feeling around the word compare. And everybody.
I've never heard that. Such great advice. I've never heard that advice. Thank you so much for it. I see a couple of comments popped up. I got to go to a different screen before I play out the Marianne. She's still with us. She says, thank you. Fantastic show. And Michael says, you are awesome.
Thank you.
Which you truly are. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here, everybody, and co-creating and listening to this amazing story. I will see you guys next week. Peace.